I think it is universal that we are, that our parents are such a big presence, and especially as you start your own family, or looking at the family you came from and all the things that you've been affected by. So I definitely wanted to show that. And it was so fun writing that character, because I could take things from my relationship with my dad, but then also friends of his that have chimed in, and people I've met along the way, and just things that I didn't really think about growing up. And then as I was writing this, I remember a friend of my dad telling me to grow my hair long and pretty, because that's how boys liked it. And all the things that we hear that we just grow up with as the norm. And so it was fun to look at that all from an adult point of view, and how much we've just has shaped us, and then defining our own identity as an adult through that.
Without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce our fantastic panel for this evening. We have the extraordinary star who plays Laura in On the Rocks. She's an Emmy-nominated actress, writer, director, and documentarian whose work on television includes The Office, Parks and Recreation, and a personal favorite of mine, Angie Tribeca. Her work in cinema includes such films as The Social Network, I Love You Man, and Celeste and Jesse Forever, which she also co-wrote. And she won a Grammy in 2018 for her documentary Quincy, which was about her father. Please welcome Rashida Jones. And of course, we're also joined by the producer, writer, and director of On the Rocks. She won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay in 2003 for her modern classic Lost in Translation, which also starred Bill Murray. And since her feature debut with The Virgin Suicides in 1999, she's become one of the most admired and garlanded directors of the 21st century. She won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival for her film Somewhere in 2010. And for The Beguiled in 2017, she took the Best Director prize at Cannes. And really, I'm only scratching the surface of a truly extraordinary career. Please welcome Sofia Coppola.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Thanks,
now,
Joe.
I wonder, Sofia, if I can start with you. On the Rocks is such a touching, beautiful, and funny film. And I wonder for you what the jumping off point was for this story.
Oh, thank you. I was kind of at a moment of my having little kids and trying to find my footing as a writer and creative person, and kind of in a new world and living in New York. So I was trying to, I was thinking about that moment, and also how to have about a father-daughter story, and thinking about all the conversations between men and women across generations that have been happening the last couple of years, and how do you look at that in the framework of family and a father and daughter looking across generations in that way. So I was trying to, that was kind of the starting point, and then how to do something that was hopefully fun and light and could, show New York, but then also at the heart of it, look at the things I was trying to understand. And
Right. I mean, I do wonder if perhaps film journalists like myself try far too hard to find patterns in body of work, but it does strike me that you're quite attracted to stories that seem quite simple and sparing on the surface, but actually have a huge amount of complexity and human truth bubbling underneath. And I wonder whether you'd agree with that assessment, first of all, and how much you do find yourself drawn to that kind of juxtaposition.
I appreciate that, because that's the kind of filmmaking that I like. And I do like to be kind of deceivingly simple and make something that's hopefully easy to take in, but then that you think about later. It isn't all wrapped up. And I always like films that you think about and hopefully can connect with emotionally, even if you can't exactly explain it. And I've always liked things that are sort of impressionistic and try to capture. I always start with like a feeling and a mood, and then try to understand it later, as opposed to being more intellectual about it, I guess.
Well, and of course you worked with Bill very famously on Lost in Translation, but you also worked with Bill and Rashida, I think, a couple of years ago on A Very Merry Christmas. Were you always thinking of these two actors for these roles?
Well, after doing that scene together, when Rashida came out for the Christmas show, that one scene, seeing them together, I thought, it just stayed in my mind that they had such a nice rapport, and I'd love to see something with them. And then when I started thinking about this, I remembered that moment and thought they could really, the whole story really relies on the chemistry and rapport of those two characters, and I felt like they really have that connection and admiration for each other, and so I was excited I could start picturing it, which helped me write it. And I knew Rashida a little over the years, and she helped me years ago with a workshop for Lost in Translation, and I knew that she has such a sorry to talk about you in front of you. Oh, sorry. A a thoughtful, sensitive side that I wanted to show more of. And of course, we know she's got great comedic timing, but then to also show another side of herself that I knew
Rashida,
to the heart of the story.
absolutely. Rashida, I wondered for you if you could talk about just the approach that you got from Sophia and what you made of the story that she kind of presented to you.
Well, I think I related to it on a personal level. Just being at this point in my life where I've been really lucky and I've had a lot of success, and I'm kind of building my own life and my own family. But then I'm sort of wondering like how I fit into my own life and my relationships and all this stuff. So that really spoke to me. And then obviously, I have a very um, charming, beloved father. And so that the relationship between Felix and Laura, there's so much stuff in there. I mean, obviously it's like this character has a very unique point of view and theories about women and men, but just the kind of intergenerational like dynamic and conversation and how much I've been influenced as my dad's daughter, and then how much of me wants to kind of find my own space in the world, like separate from being my dad's daughter. And I think it doesn't matter who your father is. There is always going to be some kind of dynamic there that you're going to have to unpack as an adult. And I love that about the script.
Well, and I think I was going to say the same thing. Like, I mean, I think I even see my relationship with my father in the film, and I think there's a really interesting notion to this idea of a man whose personality was entirely defined before you even entered the planet, Sophia. I wonder I wonder if that's what you saw in that and what you found. I mean, Rashida obviously touched on how it was personal to her, but I do think she's also right that it's a very universal thing. So I wonder if I could ask about what you brought of yourself and what you kind of created in this.
Yeah, I hope that I think it is universal that we are, that our parents are such a big presence, and especially as you start your own family or looking at the family you came from and all the things that you've been affected by. So I definitely wanted to show that. And it was so fun writing that character because I could take things from my relationship with my dad, but then also friends of his that have chimed in and people I've met along the way and just things that I didn't really think about growing up. And then as I was writing this, I remember a friend of my dad telling me to grow my hair long and pretty because that's how boys liked it. And all the things that we hear that we just grow up with as the norm. And so it was fun to look at that all from an adult point of view and how much we've just has shaped us and then defining our own identity as an adult through that.
Well, and I wonder as well how much of your it's interesting, isn't it? I think watching the film, it's very clear how much of an impact Bill has on it. I mean, his presence is very central to it, and obviously you knew you were going to be working with Bill as you were writing it. But I mean, of course, the character isn't him directly. I would love to ask. We're just trying to understand a little bit more about the kind of the marriage between Bill and this character, because it is fascinating to me how much it's him and not him.
Yeah, he brings a lot of like just the magic that Bill brings and his charisma, and always something unique is going to happen when he's there. So I think Felix has that kind of character who kind of sweeps in, and it's sort of like a fairy godfather character that she's in this monotony and he sweeps in to make it fun, as those kind of guys do. But of course, with that, there's also a dark side and selfish side. So I think he brought the kind of magical part, and then there were aspects, of course, he would never say the kind of things that Felix said, and he had a lot of fun with playing it up in this character, and also being kind of a dandy, international art dealer, and always kind of working a deal. So there were aspects from a lot of different people that I wanted to put in there. But then I think he, always, like any great actor, connected emotionally to bringing his heart to it. And I think I was the most struck when we shot the scene in Mexico where Laura and him are really connecting and talking about relationships in a serious way, like all kidding aside. And he reveals the loss of an ex in a way that I remember there's only a few moments where my parents have revealed things, and it's always shocking that they are people outside of being your parents. And when you see them talk about a a relationship or something that it always struck me in life, and I was trying to put that in it. And when Bill and Rashida did that scene, I really felt that come through, that he was connecting something personal to him, and that she was really able to reflect on herself through him, or they had that exchange that is, at the heart of it, it's fun and it can be ridiculous and silly, but at the center of it, you want it to have that connection of emotion, hopefully. So I was trying to convey that in those moments when you're struck by someone revealing themselves, especially a parent that you don't see as someone outside of being a parent.